Hi, my name is Xavier Bolden. I'm a sophomore GIS major and, among other things, an avid fan of bizarre and outlandish science fiction, which is partially why I was motivated to create this video on the topic of transhumanism. I'm fascinated by the concept of augmenting human form and function with technology and the potential advancements that it might bring. Generally, I would say that I'm someone who is pro-human progress, in whatever shape that takes, but not in such a blind manner that I don't realize the potential consequences of such a fundamental change, such as transhumanism, especially if it's one not controlled and measured in its depth and speed. Humans are always in competition with the past in an effort to improve our condition and living circumstances. Look at air conditioning, the internet, the light bulb, or even our prehistoric use of fire. However, oftentimes the motivations behind this progress is not simply to improve humanity as a whole, but our own circumstances. Like the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention, whether that's monetary necessity, as in the need to create for the purpose of commercial success, or true necessity, where progress is made to solve an issue in a person's life. As I'm sure you know from taking this class, one of the new frontiers of this progress is transhumanism. As defined by PhilosophyTube in the course media for February 16th, transhumanism is the philosophical study of technology that might enable us to go beyond current human limitations. This is quite a broad definition, and I'll be more specifically looking at potential or current technologies that can or could be used to augment humans directly, such as becoming a cyborg, uploading one's mind into a machine completely, or genetic modification. Currently, the extent of transhumanism in humans is small changes mainly. Things like a microchip implanted in your hand so that you can use digital pay methods such as Apple Pay or Google Pay without having to carry a phone or some other device on you. Or mainly form-based changes like discussed in the class lecture from February 14th. Things like implants under your skin, on your forehead to make it look like you have horns, or tattooing your eyeballs all black. Things that are purely for visual effect. However, recently, Neuralink, which is a company, has had its first human trials and with a product called Prime, which stands for Precise Robotically Implanted Brain-Computer Interface. This product promises to aid people with ALS or people who are quadriplegic, use technology using only their mind. So in some test videos that they've shown on the internet, you can use a keyboard just by thinking about the letters that you want to type, and it will text out theoretically faster than a human could with their just hands alone. However, these human trials started very recently, beginning of January, I believe. And so there's not really much data on how effective they are yet. There's been very little publicly released information about how the people are dealing with these implants, but they have been put in people officially. And then as for genome editing, that's still mainly illegal to do. Many people have deemed it unethical to edit humans, mainly in like embryos would be the place to do it, because they can't consent, one, and because there's a lot of dark paths that could take. However, in 2018, a Chinese scientist named He Jiankui announced that he had edited the genes of twin girls when they were embryos in order to make them resistant to HIV, which obviously was illegal, right, in international law. And he was, of course, exiled from the scientific community, and it was deemed very unethical. But things like this are definitely, potential things we could see in the future, as there aren't really large negative side effects if done properly. And these twin girls apparently have been growing up fine so far. I mean, they're only 6 now, but they don't have to see any lasting consequences of becoming HIV resistant. And so this could be something that we see a lot more of in the future. Human genome editing is actually one of the aspects of transhumanism that I'm most interested in. In fact, up until my junior year of high school, I wanted to be a genetic engineer and modify humans to continue progressing human evolution. Editing of the human genome is a concept that seems nearer than any of the other meaningful change to human progress, and one of the most promising. After all, we conquered the organisms of Earth and its lands, we have still yet to conquer the human body itself. However, this is a potentially dangerous path to go down because a lot of genetic change might be very expensive. This is just one of the many problems that it might bring. And because of that cost, it could create a drastic class divide, not just in status and power and wealth, but fundamentally in the DNA of people. We could end up segregating the human race by those with enough money to make their children 6.5 feet tall, chiseled jawline, high metabolism, enhanced mental cognition, strong immune system, immunity to diseases, right? And then people who can't afford those things. People who will be forced to live like normal humans like we do now and be left with that disadvantage. And that's really a very scary potential outcome of human genome editing, which is why it's so that's a very scary potential outcome of human genome editing, which is why it's deemed so unethical by scientists to continue making progress in this direction, because of all of the military potential uses as well as the effects that it could have on everyday society. Right? Creation of human super soldiers when they're embryos and they can't consent to that kind of change is something that we need a lot more thinking and progress on before we're ready to actually make meaningful steps in that direction. We discussed the many potential upsides of something like having direct internet access to your brain might have, such as instant recall of any information available to mankind, or faster computing, no need for calculators or external devices like phones to carry around all the time if you have that kind of technology inside of your brain. There's also the potential upsides of things that companies like Neuralink are looking into currently, where it can help people who are disabled, right, don't have all of the motor function, or people as they get older, it's harder for them to do certain things. But with the aid of technology and implants, they can still maintain the functionality of their body in the same way that another person could. We also discussed potentially swapping out organs or internal body parts and enhancing their functionality, which is something that probably will not be happening for a very long time, as there's nothing really wrong with human organs as is. But if we could say enhance the liver, right, put in an artificial liver so that you could instantly turn it on and at the press of a button it would filter the blood alcohol content of your body, and you would go from being drunk to sober and ready to drive within 2-3 minutes maybe. Or something like artificial kidneys or organs for replacement, things where someone has failure and they can use technology to put it inside of their body in order to keep them alive. This is particularly interesting to him because he's pre-med currently and he's going to be a doctor, at least that's what he hopes. And so this aspect of the technology is very interesting to him because it applied to a field that he is looking into, and he sees a lot of hope in this technology and its promise of keeping more people alive. However, he also discussed some of the negatives that technology like this could potentially have. If something like Apple Vision Pro were to be implanted into your eyeball and you have screens in front of you constantly, you'll be less connected to other people in the natural world as a result. And we feel like that's something that is already strained enough as is with the current technology that humans have, and that moving further away would only be a bad thing for people. He also has concerns about costs of these sort of technologies like I do, partially because I brought that up when I was interviewing him. But he's also concerned about potential class separation if these things are very costly and if they provide too much benefit, where once you have them, these same people will continue to have them and will be the only people that can afford them because they have them. It would give them such a strong advantage potentially that it would make people who don't have them unable to compete and therefore unable to ever reach out of their current socioeconomic level. Things like this are a large concern, mainly because we don't know the potential side effects that doing this directly might have. Of course, we're worried about, implanting something in your brain may fry your brain and make you think crazy or hacking issues. But we're assuming that, like all technology, over time it will get better, and that it will eventually come to a point where that's not really an issue anymore. And so we're just thinking about the fundamental problems that technology like this has as a whole, even if it's done perfectly. These are still issues. As a whole, we had different perspectives on the important parts of transhumanism, but I would say that we are both transhumanists in general. People who are generally pro human development through technology, continuing human evolution. This kind of philosophy is called H+. It was something that we discussed about on the February 16th lecture. And it's a group of people who, advocate for this type of change and, put in policies and things like that and are making progress, making meaningful steps towards that. Or just people who generally support the concept, which is what I would deem me and Kuli as. Another concern that we both agreed on was the issue of a potential panopticon, which is something that we discussed in our February 14th lecture, it's the concept of always being watched by the government, which of course is already happening to some extent. But if there's internal technologies within us, then I fear that it would become an even larger issue. Data collection is already so prevalent, with Fitbits tracking even your heart rate and recording that data, your location data constantly being sold for money, or the words that you say being recorded by your Alexa. But if there's actual implants into our brain reading our neurological waves and signals, there is really no way to hide anything from these companies that want to collect the data. Of course, unless there's government restrictions and policies put in place specifically to prevent that. But those can only go so far. The last important aspect of transhumanism that I haven't touched on yet is the concept of uploading your mind completely into a machine, such as the Kurzgesagt video from the Course Media, February 19th. Can you upload your mind into a machine and live forever? It touches on the concept of whether or not a soul is more than the sum of its parts, and a consciousness being able to be moved from one thing to another, and the possibility of that. And also the potential consequences of something that might have on humanity. If this were to occur, I don't think it would be fair to even say that it's human civilization at that point, right? At that point, we've transcended humanity and we are now more machine than man. I'm not sure whether or not that would be a general positive or negative. No world hunger because people can't eat anymore, but I think part of what makes humanity so beautiful is the fact that we are flesh and bone, and that our life has a timer on it, and that we're struggling to make ourselves last and live forever through the things we produce and through our legacy. And so converting ourselves into a machine, I think, would strip away part of the beauty that civilization has. Thank you.